Can children see ghosts? So the story comes from a lady named Estrella who is now 35 years old, but she still remembers the one and only paranormal thing that ever happened to her when she was 5 years old. When Estrella was 5 years old, she had a tia abuela, which is like her grandmother's sister. Her tia abuela was older than her grandmother, and she had only seen her a handful of times, and that was because this lady was consistently very sick and ill, so they would visit her at the hospital, but she wasn't very familiar with her. So Estrella's grandmother was the one taking care of her tia abuela, and one day she finds out that the lady passes away. Obviously, Estrella was 5 years old, so she didn't really know what passing away was, or like she had no idea that somebody could die and just no longer be here. However, it was the first time she had ever had to deal with this, so they tried to make her understand it the best way possible. Estrella remembers that her mom had a conversation with her telling her that people have different cycles, that sometimes people pass away and you will never see them again, and it could hurt, but maybe they move on to something better. The mom said that you will always be able to remember them by like pictures, by like maybe imagining them in your head, but you're not gonna see them again through your eyes. However, that last thing that her mom told her got Estrella really confused, because she literally stopped her mom and was like, what do you mean we can't see her? That's a lie, because I can see her. She is literally right behind you. I'm sorry, like I know family member, I know kid sees family member, but like I would have been freaking the fuck out. So the mom immediately gets goosebumps, turns around, and doesn't see anybody behind her. And she tells Estrella, oh my gosh, please don't tell me those kinds of things, you're getting me nervous. But Estrella didn't let it go. She tells her mom, but I don't understand, why are you telling me that I'm not gonna be able to see her when she is standing right there? So Estrella says that from when they told her that her tia abuela passed away, for 6 months she was still living with the presence of the lady. Like she would see her every day. She would see her very calm. She would see her smiling. The only weird thing that now as a grown adult she says was very strange was that she would never actually see her move about the house. For example, if she was in the living room, she would see her sitting on one of the couch. Now Estrellita would leave the living room, go to another room, and she would then see her in that room sitting on a chair. She never physically saw her walk, but any room that she would go to, the tia abuela would be there. And she doesn't ever remember being scared of her. She again would see her smiling, very calm. However, that is also when her aunt realizes that Estrella is seeing their tia abuela. So her aunt goes up to her and says, Estrella, is it true that you're seeing our tia abuela? And Estrella was like, yeah, she's sitting right there in the corner. She's actually looking at us right now. And her aunt was like, is she saying anything? What does she look like? Can you tell me? And Estrellita was like, well, she's just smiling at us. That is when her aunt tells Estrellita, do you think that maybe you can tell her something for me? And she tells Estrellita, can you tell her that if there's nothing left for her to do here, maybe she could move on and go to heaven and be with God, and that she can wait for us there. And Estrellita, being like the caring little girl that she was, looks at her aunt and says, you don't think that's kind of rude for me to tell her? And her aunt tells her, no, it's not rude, because when we're done with the cycle here, it's time for us to go and get some rest. And she tells her, sometimes your tia abuela was a little hard-headed, so you got to tell her. Estrella says that she will never forget this, because she remembers walking towards her tia abuela, looking up at her, and her tia abuela looking down at her and just says, well, you heard her. She says you have to go and wait for us in heaven. So goodbye. She says that she remembers still looking at her face while telling her that, and that her tia abuela was smiling almost like she wanted to burst out laughing, and then she just started to fade away. She says that she had never seen her after she faded away, and she had never even seen anybody else that had passed away throughout her life. Now as a 35-year-old, she says that she looks at death very differently, because she knows that when her day comes, her tia abuela is going to be waiting for her aunt, and her mother. I know this story is not scary. Well, a tiny bit, because if it happened to me, I'd also be like, huh? Who the fuck is behind me? But what do you guys think?